Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. If you have a Karcher K5 pressure washer doing this, then continue watching and I'll show you how to fix it using a few simple tools. So let's make a start.
So this is what happens when I come to use the pressure washer. I plug in the hose and it starts leaking out of the side of the casing near the detergent pickup hose. Here's a close-up of the issue. When I pull the trigger gun on the pressure washer, it stops spraying out of the side. But as soon as I let go of the trigger, it then sprays out of the side again. This time with more ferocity. I'm going to need to remove the casing to see where this leak is coming from. First, make sure the hose pipe and high pressure hose is disconnected and the power cable is unplugged. Also unhook this rubber cord. There are then 10 T15 torque screws on the back which need to be unscrewed to release the rear casing. Technically the two highlighted in green don't need to be removed, but I didn't know this until after opening up the pressure washer. Lay the pressure washer down on its front, which will make it easier to unscrew. Once unscrewed, pull the rear casing upwards. There's nothing connected to it, so it should come off without any resistance. Now looking at where it's wet inside the casing, I'm guessing it's coming from this plastic part here. But let's plug it back up to the hose pipe to confirm. I'll plug in the high pressure hose, otherwise it will pour out of the top. I've already got it plugged into mains power. Now the hose pipe. There's about an inch long split in this plastic manifold pipe. For curiosity's sake, I'm going to switch it on to see what happens when the trigger gun is pressed. So the leaking almost stops while the lance is in use, but once it stops, the back pressure is escaping through this split. Now I have it back on the bench, you can see the part number here, 9.038-437.0. Here's a better close-up of the split pipe. The 3 bolts holding it in at the top are using a 5mm Allen key. You could possibly try and remove it whilst the pump is still sat in the front casing like so. However, it's going to be much easier to lift it out to work on it. Take care with the power switch stalk, drop the pump on this and it will snap. I'll now get these bolts removed. With all 3 now placed to one side, I'll now try and pull the pipe off the pump head. Geez, this does not want to budge. Actually, now I've flexed it away from the head, I can see something protrudes inside, so I don't think this is coming off without first lifting off the head. These head bolts use a 6mm Allen key, and because of the design of this pressure washer having the high pressure outlet on the top, water leaking down from the connector has corroded and bonded these bolts to the head. The difficulty is trying to apply enough pressure whilst having a good hold of the pump. I don't want to damage any of the other plastic parts surrounding the pump in the process. Even with it on its side, these bolts are refusing to budge. I can see me injuring my delicate keyboard tapping fingers doing this, so I'm putting on some gloves. Finally! Now with all 4 loosened off, I'll finish unscrewing them. The manifold pipe was actually holding the pump head down, and now you can see why I don't think this would have come off without first loosening the head. Geez, it's even refusing to come out of the base of the pump. I'm going to keep wriggling it to see if I can free it up. Actually, removing the head will give me more room. First disconnect the earth wire. It's using a T20 torque screw. When I removed the head, an O-ring from the electrical connector fell off. I'm going to have to remember to put that back on afterwards. Now I have better access to grab it, even twisting it isn't freeing this thing up. Finally! You can see water inside the split when I flex the part. I'm surprised it didn't give on the seam running down the middle. Answers in the comments what you think this concoction is. Before I forget, I'll attach the O-ring that fell off earlier before I lose it. It just wraps around this connector here like so. Having a quick Google, the first item in the list appears to be a genuine replacement from eBay. It's from a reputable seller with postage included, so I'll get that ordered now.
Now, whilst waiting for the parts to arrive, I did reattach the pump head just to keep the grease in the chamber. Here is the old part and here's the new replacement one. They've got exactly the same part numbers. The only difference is this one, the revision is QB on the old one, it's QC on the new one. I've also got some silicone grease just to prepare the O-rings, just to make sure that they create a good seal. And then a lot of people think that this is motor oil mixed with water and it creates that cloudy, sandy coloured looking liquid. However, it felt very much like grease. Just as a precaution, I did order this is the official stuff that Karcher used inside that chamber. They refer to it as an oil grease lubricant, this Thermoplex. So we'll see what the consistency of this looks like in comparison to what's in the chamber. I personally think that's all right. It didn't look damaged or contaminated. So we'll open it up and take a closer look.
I'll just quickly remove these bolts again so the head can be removed. I've also loosened the earth cable and that O-ring has just fallen off again. I've got a piece of white card and I'm using the hex key to transfer a blob onto the card. I'll now squeeze a similar amount out of the new grease lubricant alongside it. Now you can clearly see the existing liquid is slightly darker, which is presumably from metal particles mixed with the grease from wear over time. In terms of viscosity, if anything, the existing liquid is thicker than the new grease. If it had mixed with water, it would be runnier. This being the case, I'm not going to replace it, only top it up a little to compensate for what dripped on the bench whilst I had the head removed. Next, I'm reattaching the rubber O-ring that insulates the electrical motor terminals. I'm putting a little silicone grease onto it to ensure it creates a good seal. I'm also putting some onto the new pipe manifold as the O-rings feel dry and I want to make sure it doesn't leak. With the manifold pipe placed in the base, I now need to remove the bolts which secure the manifold to the pump head. Make sure the large O-ring that seals the piston chamber is lubricated. Now I thought I could flex the manifold pipe over the hex thing sticking out of the cylinder head. However, it's probably just easier to pull it back out and secure it to the head first, so that's what I'm going to do. With the 3 hex bolts tightened up, now comes the tricky bit. Make sure the electrical connector, cylinder head and pipe manifold slot into their respective holes in the metal pump casing without nipping any of the O-rings. With the electrical connector here, If you don't have this outer housing perfectly lined up to go over the inner connector, the outer housing will push the inner connector down into the metal casing and the terminals won't be connected. Now you need to push down to load the piston springs and try and get the head bolts threaded onto the pump body. Remember to tighten these equally to ensure the head doesn't go on lopsided, which could damage an O-ring in the process. Make sure the electrical connector and manifold pipe are sliding into their holes as you close the gap between the pump housing and cylinder head. With the two halves fully mated, finish tightening the hex bolts to 12 to 15 Newton meters, which is about 9 to 11 foot-pounds of torque. Don't forget to reattach the earth cable to the pump housing, which uses a T20 torque screwdriver.
Now the easiest way to get the pump back into the casing is to place the front cover face down, make sure the power switch is still in the same orientation as the power switch on the pump. This part slots into there, and then the bottom of the pump rests on this part here. Now the power cable actually needs to route underneath this capacitor housing, and then this part here slots into this top one here. So just gently lift the pump up, tuck it under, and then slot it down. And then the dispenser pickup tube needs to route underneath. Make sure it doesn't get kinked. Has a slot in there. And then it needs to, the excess needs to go down behind the pump here and then out of its exit part here. Now next, with everything in place, just slot the rear case in over the top. Make sure everything lines up. Make sure this rubber part doesn't get in the way at the top. Make sure the dispenser nozzle isn't getting trapped. And the seams between the two halves should all meet without any resistance. Finally, you need to reinsert the 10 screws that came out. So there's the 2 at the bottom, 2 behind the wheels, 2 on either side, here and here, here and here, and then there's 2 at the top, there and there.
Now it's all back together, it's time to test it to see if it's fixed. I've plugged the pressure washer into the mains, now I'll connect the hose pipe. Next I'll connect the high pressure hose. Now I'll turn on the water tap. Next, make sure there's no air in the system. That's most of the air cleared out. Now I'll attach the lance tip and turn it on. It sounds like the pump has been starved briefly. I'm assuming there's still a little trapped air in the pump. That's better, it's constant now. Now if this video helped you fix your pressure washer, please help me out by liking this video. And that's it. All good, no leaks.
Well guys, that's it for this video. I hope you found it useful. If you did, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Subscribing is free and it just means any future videos I release will automatically appear on your feed without you having to search for them. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.